There's a man standing in a pool of cool, clear water. He's been thirsty for 1,000 years. He bends to drink and the water drains away from his lips, into the ground. Above him hangs ripe fruit, heavy on the branch. He reaches up and the branch lifts, just out of his fingers. The Greeks called him Tantalus, and they meant it as a punishment from the gods. We even kept his name for the feeling. Tantalizing. Something always just out of reach. Here's the uncomfortable part. That isn't a myth about the underworld. For most of us, that's a Tuesday. You know the moment. The thing you waited for finally arrives. The promotion, the package at the door, the number in the account. For a day, maybe 3, there's a glow. And then without you deciding it, the glow becomes the floor. The new car is just the car, and your eye has already drifted to the next thing. Notice what you actually chase, too. It's almost always the visible things, the car, the watch, the house. Nobody lies awake aching for a kindness no one will ever see. Because underneath the wanting is something we don't like to admit. You don't just want the thing. You want to be the person seen, having it. You want to stop being the one who's still wanting. Schopenhauer said it 200 years ago. Most of us treat other people's opinion as the real world, and our own life as the shadow. So let me show you the machine underneath this with a man who starved himself over a single coin, an 18th century robe that quietly emptied a man's house, a study of lottery winners, and 3 things you can actually do about it. 25 centuries ago, the Buddha gave this one name: tanha, craving, thirst. And his claim was the radical part. The suffering isn't that you don't have enough. The suffering is the wanting itself. A thirst you can't drink your way out of because the drinking is what keeps you thirsty. Fill the gap, and the mind doesn't rest. It draws a new one, a little further out. Epicurus saw the same trap, and left us the cleanest instruction anyone's written on it. If you want to make a man happy, do not add to his riches, take away from his desires. There's an old story that shows this better than any argument. A poor man and his wife lived in a small hut, and they were happy. He worked, they ate, they wanted for nothing they didn't have. Next door lived a rich man, restless, anxious, never at ease. A wandering monk told him, "Your neighbor owns almost nothing, and he's lighter than you'll ever be." The rich man didn't believe it. So he set a test that night. He crept over and slipped 99 gold coins under the poor man's door. The next evening, no smoke from the hut, no fire, no dinner. Because the moment they counted 99, a thought arrived that had never been there before. Just one more, and we'd have 100. And they began to starve themselves to save for it. They'd had enough until they were handed almost more than enough. And almost is the most expensive word there is. So here's the first thing you can do right now, with me. Find your 99th coin, the number, the title, the upgrade that's almost, the one your mind says, "Once I have that, I'll finally settle." Picture it clearly. Now be honest about what happened the last time you reached one of these. The last, "once I have that." It came, and the settling didn't. The line just moved. That's not a story I'm telling you. That's a receipt you already have. And this isn't only old wisdom. Psychologists measured it and gave it a name, the hedonic-treadmill. Whatever you get, good or bad, you adapt and slide back to roughly where you started. They studied lottery winners. A year on, they were no happier than people who never won. Worse, they took less pleasure in small things, the coffee, the sunlight, because nothing could compete with the size of the win. Even the chemistry runs this way. The reward chemical, dopamine, doesn't really spike when you get the thing it spikes before, in the chasing. The moment of arrival is strangely quiet. You are built to want. You are not built to arrive. The Buddha just noticed it without a brain scanner. And it's sneakier than just wanting the next big thing. Sometimes one small win quietly rewrites everything. In the 1700s, a French writer named Diderot was given a gift, a beautiful scarlet dressing gown. He loved it. But next to something so elegant, his old chair suddenly looked shabby, so he replaced it. Then the desk didn't match, then the shelves, then the art on the walls. Soon his whole familiar, comfortable room was made over, and he was poorer and stranger to himself, and no happier than the day before the robe. He wrote an essay about it. Economists named the pattern after him, the Diderot effect. One new thing, and suddenly 10 old things aren't enough. You've felt it, the new phone that makes the rest of your life look outdated. Now you might do what we all do. Look up at the person who already has what you want, and imagine they feel the way you'd feel if you had it. Settled. Done. Step inside their head, though, and you'd find them looking up too at their own next thing. The contentment you're envying isn't even there. The richest person you know is, at this very moment, wanting something. Seneca pointed back to Alexander, the man who had taken the whole known world and still called him poor. Because the moment Alexander ran out of world, he wanted more. What is enough for nature, Seneca said, is never enough for a man. But you don't need to guess what's in anyone else's head. You have the one piece of evidence that settles it, your own life. You already have things the younger you ached for, prayed for, was certain would be enough. And here you are, wanting more. The hunger didn't shrink as you got more. It grew. That's the whole teaching, and it's already in your hands. And right about here, something in you pushes back. Fine, so I should want nothing, give it all up, sit in a cave? No. And notice the trap in that question. The person who desperately wants to want nothing is still, obviously, wanting. Renouncing everything is just chasing with the opposite hand. Desire isn't the enemy. Desire is life moving the urge to grow, to build, to make something real. The Gita draws the line exactly where it belongs. You have every right to the work. You don't own the result. Act fully. Build the thing. Just stop hanging your peace on the outcome because the outcome was never strong enough to hold it, which gives you the second thing you can actually do. Thoreau left us a line that works like a filter. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. Not the price tag, the hours, the years off your one life. So before the next thing you're sure you need, ask it plainly. How much of my life does this cost, and is the thing worth that much of me? Some things clearly are. Many, once you actually price them in life, quietly stop being worth it. And here's the strange thing you'll notice if you look. The satisfactions in your life that actually lasted, they were almost never the things you got for the getting. They were two other kinds. The things you did when they might have come to nothing and you did them anyway, against the odds, into the dark. And the things you gave when no one was watching. There's an old story about that second kind. A man so quietly good that the angels came down to watch him live. Small things filled his days. He gave and he forgave, though he never once said so aloud. Angels asked God to grant him miracles, so they asked the man, "Would you like the touch of your hands to heal the sick?" "I'd rather God did that," he said. He wanted nothing, not even to be good where it could be seen. So it was arranged that his shadow would heal. Wherever he walked, the shadow falling behind him where he could never see it turned dry paths green and made sick people well. And he went on, day after day, giving and forgiving, never knowing. In time, people forgot his name entirely. They simply called him the Holy Shadow. That's the kind of having that never goes gray because it was never about being the one who has. So, the third thing, and this one takes 30 seconds. Tonight, pick one thing you've completely stopped noticing. The roof over you, the person asleep in the next room, your own working body. Now imagine it gone. Feel that drop in your chest? That's the value the treadmill quietly stole, the thing that, not so long ago, you'd have given anything for. You don't have to go out and acquire it. You're already standing in it. Most of us are richer than we feel. We've just stopped looking at what we have, and only at what's missing. So what do you do with all of this? Not stop wanting. You can't, and you shouldn't. The old texts have an image I keep coming back to. The contented mind, they say, is like the ocean. Rivers pour into it all day, wishes, wants, an endless flow. And the ocean stays full and stays still. It takes in everything and is moved by nothing. The opposite of Tantalus was never a man with nothing. It's a man who can want and reach and even get without being run by it. Enough was never a number you reach. It's a way of seeing you switch on. Lao Tzu put it in one line. When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. You'll forget all of this. Maybe by tomorrow something will catch your eye and the old certainty will rise. This one will finally do it. The hunger doesn't vanish. You're human. It comes back. But here's what changes. You'll catch it faster. You'll feel yourself reaching for the fruit on the branch, the 100th coin, the next thing wearing a new face, and for 1 second, you'll see it. And you can smile and reach anyway if you like, but you won't starve for it anymore. There's an old saying, if a man wanders off in the morning and finds his way home by evening, he was never really lost. You don't have to win the chase. You only have to notice you're running and remember you already have somewhere to come home to. You always did.